and wept. For thee, Zion, we remember, we remember, we remember thee, Zion. By the waters of Babylon. By the waters of Babylon. We remember wilderness and wilderness for thee, Zion. We remember thee, Zion. We
Okay. You hear me okay? All right. It's not on?
You're on.
Oh, I'm on. Okay. All right. Welcome to the Church in Ocean Park. Everyone deserves to be in a loving community. No exceptions. No one marginalized, no one demonized, no one thrown away. This is what we're creating here at the Church in Ocean Park. We are born for love. Many of us are familiar with the idea of microaggressions, but there are also neurobiologists who are calling micro interactions, interactions of loving tenderness, a smile, a wave, a welcoming greeting, a friendly exchange, a loving touch, a hug, wanted of course, simply being present, engaged, accepting, listening. To the extent we foster this, we are building loving community. Throughout human history, fear-mongering has been used to dumb us down, to put us into lower parts of the brain where we can't easily access our ability to think clearly. Fear, isolation, and marginalization make us easier to manipulate. Loving interactions are part of the bulwark against this. More and more these days, we are seeing the overriding importance of community in healing, buffering us from trauma, and working together to meet the challenges we face as we move forward. Welcome to the Church in Ocean Park.
Very glad to see so many of you here today. We hope others will join us later. We give thanks for this new day. We are worshiping today right after the ups and downs of the election week just passed. And we we hope that we will be renewed and revived and refreshed as we continue to worship today. I nearly said chaplain. The minister for our church in Ocean Park, is Reverend Janet McKeithen. She will not be here today. She is with family and friends, I think celebrating her mother's 96th birthday. So we are very glad to have her with her family today, enjoying the great moment. So we're going to continue with the land acknowledgement. We, the people of the church in Ocean Park, recognize that our building in Santa Monica sits on stolen land. We, the settlers of this land, honor the Kish, the Tongva, and the Chumash peoples. We acknowledge the harms of genocide, enslavement, forced assimilation, gender violence, the destruction of sacred sites, the burial of historic truths, and indigenous suffering at the hands of U.S. settler colonialism. We also acknowledge that our communities and country were built on the backs of people stolen from Africa, placed into bondage, and forced into labor. Let us now commit ourselves to healing by helping to create a more just and equitable world through the struggle of changing how we do things that we see as normal and that support the systems that oppress us. We apologize for the harm by pledging ourselves to be part of the culture of repair. I have a moment of silence. Let us now join in the Thich Nhat Hanh as we sing, I have arrived, I am home, in the here and in the now. We sing it 3 times. I have arrived, I am home, in the here and in the now. I have arrived, I am home, in the here and in the now. I have arrived, I am home, in the here and in the now. Welcome.
Thank you, Chaplain Joseph. And I welcome you too. Hi, I'm Louise. I play music here and try to get you to sing with me, but right now I want to introduce, I'm so happy we have a special guest today. Larry Dilg is going to speak to us today. Larry is a wonderful member of our church. He is a singer, he's been an actor, he's an educator, and he's an amazing thinker and speaker, as you shall see. I'm pretty confident, I guarantee it. He's an amazing singer as well as a speaker. We have this program here we started during COVID called Tuesdays at 2. Every Tuesday from 2 to 3, we have different programs every Tuesday. And Larry has done so many programs of singers like the Beatles and Hank Williams and Linda Ronstadt and who else? Guy Clark and Bob Dylan and so on and so on. He learns all these songs and he sings them for us. So he's going to sing a song and then he's going to speak to us. And let's welcome Larry Dilg.
What a nice introduction. I feel very welcome. Here's a song by Mary Gaucher. My father could use a little mercy now.
The fruits of his labor fall and rot slowly on the ground. His work is almost over. It won't be long and he won't be around. I love my Father. He could use some mercy now. My brother could use a little mercy now. He's a stranger to freedom. He's shackled to his fear and his doubt. The pain that he lives in, it's almost more than living will allow. I love my brother. He could use some mercy now. My church and my country could use a little mercy now. As they sink into a poisoned pit that's gonna take forever to climb out. They carry the weight of the faithful who will follow them down. I love my church and country. They could use some mercy now. Every living thing could use a little mercy now. Only the hand of grace can end the race to another mushroom cloud. People in power, they'll do anything to keep their crown. I love life and life itself could use some mercy now. Yeah, we all could use some mercy now. You know what? I'm going to use a stand to see this. I'm a person who's used to using stands to read. And it's going to help me, I think. The church identified me in the bulletin as the messenger. Well, Americans sent a message on Tuesday. I'll try to decipher it. Maybe I don't need it. In the trance of election night, as hope faded away, I kept thinking of a song by Randy Newman that he wrote in 1988, where the singer, a man who's run away from his family, run out on his family and his wife, tells his little boy, "If I had one wish, one dream I knew would come true, I'd want to speak to all the people of the world. I'd get up there on that platform. I'll tell you what I'd do. I'd talk to the people and I'd say, it's a rough, rough world. It's a tough, tough world. And things don't always happen the way we plan. But there's one thing we all have in common, and something everyone can understand. I just want you to hurt like I do. I want you to hurt like I do." Those people who elected Trump were saying, we're in pain, we're hurt, and telling the Democrats, you didn't help. 4 years ago, Biden won the election by 7 million votes. A guaranteed living wage was a central part of his platform, and he received 56% of the votes of those making less than $50,000 a year. In 2024, Harris got only 49% of those votes. What changed to make people angry? We're told that inflation has gone down and that Biden's plans have been successful. But 32 million people still make less than the minimum wage, which hasn't risen since 2009. Harris said nothing about the living wage in her campaign. People stopped voting in this election. Trump got 3 million fewer votes this time. But for Harris, that number was 13 million less. She needed the votes of poor and working class people. Democrats must win them back. Above the poverty line, wages haven't kept up with inflation. The gig economy has replaced permanent jobs with temporary ones. People work just as hard and make less. Harris talked about down payments for first-time homeowners, forgiveness of college debt, and the stock market's recovery from inflation. But even with a free down payment, young people can barely afford to move in and can't depend on making much more money in the future. Home ownership has been replaced by renting. My son, a teacher, lives with his family in an apartment. For him, a house is out of the question. Programs to forgive student debt aren't much help to people who never went to college. Only 30% of Americans ever graduated from college at all. Forgiving debt is wonderfully generous, but it doesn't translate into many new votes. The vast majority are left out. For most people, the Dow Jones and GDP are just numbers. I mean, it's hard to care about the stock market if you don't have any investments. The market is the business of the wealthy. It doesn't trickle down. Kamala's economic plans just didn't address the basic needs of lower-class Americans, and so people voted for Trump or just stayed home. The language of political discourse is dominated by college graduates, that elite 30%. Trump, on the other hand, talks and acts like a blue-collar guy. His rambling speeches, his hyperbolic rage, his vivid fantasies about a country beset with immigrant criminals strike a chord in his audience. The words don't matter because he gets it. He feels it. His dark monologues seem to come from his inner self. He shows what most people hide. His lying and bragging, they're just familiar strategies for keeping it all together. They don't even register with his audience. It gives them comfort to know he knows how they feel. They trust him. He's one of them. And so no matter how weird he may be, they vote for him. It's hard for me to know how to deal with this message. I'm part of the cultural and economic elite. Every word I write reeks of privilege. The Democrats must work harder to acknowledge and alleviate the sufferings of the working and lower classes. That should be a priority. It would be wise to acknowledge how much it hurts to have failed to help those in need and to commit to more generous policies. I don't know if that's possible for a political party to even do. But somehow the Democrats have to reconnect with the working class. I have a second message that I heard. The whole country can agree on it. We're exhausted. Kamala encouraged us to keep fighting, remember? Hard work is good work, she said. That must seem ridiculous to those who perform grueling labor every day just to make a dollar. Exhausted Republicans quietly cast their ballots and told Trump, "You take care of it." They voted and went back to daily life. The dwindling crowds at Trump's rallies in the past month seemed almost as scattered and uninvolved as their candidate. People arrived early to socialize with each other and started to exit moments after Trump began speaking. They'd heard it all before. Just seeing him was enough. He assured them that he'd take care of the rest. Why do they trust him? He was a terrible president the first time. Well, part of it's familiarity. Trump's TV show, The Apprentice, ran for 14 years. He's been a media star for the past 50 years. It seems like he was always and will always be there. The would-be dictator promises that we won't have to worry anymore, that he'll take care of everything. The right-wing media amplifies and supports everything he says, and however outrageous Trump's facts may be, Fox treats them as truth. Since they don't present alternate points of view, the audience is free of dissonance. The rest of us, the Democrats and non-voters, are sick of trying to break through the wall of ignorance. We're tired, exhausted, defeated, and anxious. COVID, climate change, gun violence, wars in the Mideast and Ukraine, billionaires. Disaster feels imminent. This is terrifying. Trump's plans to deeply disrupt and alter our democratic norms will probably feel good to many of his followers. If they feel protected by troops in the streets, amused by the president's rebel spirit and actions, and empowered by appeals to racist, sexist dog whistles and deportation of immigrants, then how can we prevent our country from destroying itself? How can we rescue our nation? What do we do after receiving these messages? I wish I knew. I could say I've seen other tyrants come and go, Nixon, Reagan. People are often eager for change. Some think it's fair to alternate the presidency every 4 years. But between Project 2025 and the well-organized right wing, we may lose the chance to change our minds. We've got to defend ourselves now before it's too late. Here's some things I'm thinking about. Resist nonviolently. Slow down the pace of change at the state and local level. Don't comply with oppressive laws. Develop strategies of resistance that allow us to gain leverage, maintain our dignity, and create a better nation. Prepare for the worst. We are going back. Become allies with blue-collar workers. Meet in person more than the internet. We need to spend time with MAGA voters and to find common ground for the sake of our party and our nation. Develop channels of communication that tell the truth. The internet is a problem even without AI. There's too much information and too few reliable editors. We need time to think and a safe way to communicate. Nurture faith. Look for benign forces at work in unlikely circumstances. Observe hopes that come true on a small scale. Prepare for bolder hope. Create places of refuge. This church, this building, and the history of those who have filled it is a precious resource. It gives physical form to our highest ideals and is a home base for the hard work ahead. The environment is a wild card about to be played. The new administration is literally playing with fire, and they will be overwhelmed. We need to protect each other and to make the most of the opportunities crisis presents. I'm basically an optimistic person, so this election was a punch to the gut. I grieve the loss of the hope we experienced this fall. I love the joyous Harris Waltz campaign. It's diversity, it's affirmation, the fun, the hope, the decency. But enjoying it required putting darker concerns, the wars especially, on the back burner. I don't think Trump is the man of peace he promised to be, but I know his supporters are glad to be isolated from foreign conflict. I don't know what the cost of such peace will be. I fear it will be high indeed. Plenty of people understand how bad things are, but we're woefully disorganized. I don't think party politics will get us out of this, but we'll need national structures to create a mass movement. Right now, we must build alliances, beware of betrayal, and cherish those we love. Yeah, we all could use a little mercy now. I know we don't deserve it, but we need it anyhow. We hang in the balance, dangle between hell and hallowed ground. And every single one of us could use use some mercy now. Every single one of us could use some mercy now.
Thank you so much, Larry Dilg. That was wonderful. I have a song here that I want to share with you. This was written by Holly Near, and I got the feeling that she wrote it last night. It just really applies to my thoughts. I am open. I'm going to start over. Sorry. I am open and I am willing, for to be hopeless would seem so strange. It dishonors those who go before us. So lift me up to the light of change. There is hurting in my family. There is sorrow in my town. There is panic all across the nation. There is wailing the whole world round. But I am open. I am willing, try it with me, to be hopeless. To be hopeless would seem so strange. It dishonors those who go before me. So lift us up to the light of change. May the children see more clearly. May the elders be more wise. May the winds of change caress us, even though it's burning our eyes. Give me a mighty oak to hold my confusion. Give me a desert to hold my fears. Give me a sunset to hold my wonder. Give me an ocean to hold my tears. But I am open and I am willing to be hopeless. To be hopeless would seem so strange. It dishonors those who go before us. So lift me up to the light of change. So lift me up to the light of change. Thank you.
Okay, we have our time of sharing now. After the message, we usually have a time of response and reflection and sharing. So we are open now to anyone who would like to share their thoughts or concerns, impressions. What mic should I use?
Let's get Larry up here.
We need a mic.
Well, yeah, we need a mic. We have a portable mic?
Yeah, right behind. There it is.
Oh, okay.
Okay, I think I saw Bob's hand.
Thank you, Joseph, and thank you, Larry. That was amazing talk. I wanted to mention to everyone that there's so much to talk about and think about, and there will be more sessions for doing that. Janet and I have been talking, and I don't have specific announcements as yet, but we're thinking in terms of not only church services, but after service workshops or, discussion sessions, things of that sort. So we will have more chance to process these things. For now, I have a lot of things to say, but I'm going to save some of them for some of those other sessions. But I'd like to focus on just one aspect. I tend to think a lot about political economy and that sort of thing, but I think right now I'd like to say something about the psychological aspect of what's happening and just put forth a thought. Okay, years ago I read a book by a psychoanalyst named Alice Miller about Nazi Germany. And in it, she did several striking things. One, she looked into the childhoods of Hitler and other moral monsters of that time, and in every case she found that person had been very badly abused as a child. She also did research and found, she looked at child raising manuals, which would have been read by people of the age to be the parents of future Nazis. And they were full of admonitions to discipline your children harshly. The minute they go wrong, apply corporal punishment, and also don't let them talk back. A recipe for building up a lot of trauma, a rage, and so forth in many, many people. Okay, you put the two together, and a person like Hitler, so badly wounded himself, becomes extremely dangerous, to say the least, and he's able to attract and sway wounded people into scapegoating and just cruelty. Now, I don't want to equate Trump with Hitler and the US with Nazi Germany, but I just want to put out the suggestion that something of that same dynamic has happened in this country. It's not that Trump supporters are just sort of people that we happen to disagree with. There's woundedness, there's trauma. There are a lot of hurt people in this country. And not all hurt people, but a lot do. And I'll just finish with the idea that those hurt people, we need not to hate them because they need a little mercy now. Thank you so much for that perfect song, Larry. They need a little mercy. But we have to recognize that especially when led by a hurt, traumatized demagogue, they can be extremely dangerous. And so the people whom they may try to victimize, such as immigrants and black people and women, Muslims, the people they may try to victimize also need a lot of mercy and a lot of help and protection. So God help us all.
Thank you for your message. It was really beautiful and it was very healing. On Wednesday morning, one of the first things I did was I called a friend of mine in Michigan who I know voted for Trump and who has supported Trump since whenever he first started his political career, if you want to call it that. And I said to her, well, you must be thrilled. She said, yeah. She said, finally, we no longer have to worry about that hoax of climate change, and we can finally get rid of all of those illegal immigrants. I said, oh, so that's the America you want? Okay. And I said, you know, it must feel very painful to think that punishment must be the only avenue of, you know, of a solution. She said, well, you know, people just have to live the right way. And, you know, the conversation continued in that way. And it made me realize something that you said in the very beginning of your talk, which is sometimes people who are in the greatest pain want others to know what that pain is. Now, it is one thing, and I've had experience of two things. It is one thing to say, I am in pain, and I want you to hear my pain. I want you to know that I am in pain. Okay, fine. It is quite another, and I have had direct experience of this, where somebody has said to me, I am in pain, and therefore you must also be in pain, because I am in pain, and I will inflict my pain on you. I've had somebody say that to me directly. And that's kind of what I think you're saying. The supporters are wanting America to know they're in pain, and very sadly, rather than wanting to just know they're in pain and help them find healing, they want to inflict that pain. That's what I heard with my friend in Michigan. She wants the hurt to be felt, because I think it's that she's worried, and certainly this other person who told me they wanted to inflict pain on me, they are worried that their pain will go unnoticed. But you see, if we don't heal and we continue inflicting the pain, we don't ever heal. And then we're all in pain. And then what? So anyway, I could go on, but thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Larry. I personally think Kamala did a great campaign. It's a lot of sexism still, and, you know, you could always say that she didn't do this, or she didn't do that, or this and that. You know, there's always that, but I thought it was a great campaign, and...
Jerry, could you talk a little louder? I can't hear you.
Okay, how's that?
Better, thank you.
Okay, I was saying that I appreciated Larry's talk and music and everything, and I feel and share the disappointment and the frustration and the pain. But we have to carry on. I just want to read two short things that I got. This one is from the Talmud. It says, "Do not be daunted by the enormity of the world's grief. Do justly now. Love mercy now. walk humbly. Now, you are not obligated to complete the work, but neither are you free to abandon it. We always hear the pendulum going, we're going to need a lot of unified, diversified people to help push that pendulum back. And we have a responsibility to do it. Oh my gosh, all the people that have given their lives over the decades, we can do it. And as far as we just have to be understanding there's going to be different points of view. But I would imagine, as much as we should get rid of the Electoral College, that I just have a feeling it'll either be a Republican or a Democrat in 2028. And there'll be a Democratic convention. It'll be happening. And I think we need to be shrewd. We need to do what we could do and all that kind of stuff to help push that pendulum back. I'm thinking of starting that activist support circle again that we had for a while, and that'll be a good thing. So that's it.
Okay, thank you. Any response so far, Larry? Okay, carry on.
Thank you. To take a follow-up as to Darius' question and point in terms of people who are hurting. Trump was asked to reflect on his past candidacy in office, and it mentioned 2 impeachments and an uprising with the idea that the election was stolen. And then he went on to ask specifically, what is it within your platform that makes me want to vote for you? Shortly, I guess within 2 or 3 minutes, they went into YMCA. This is my first time talking with an artist, since then. And I'm wondering, in his inability to answer that question, he's also made statements in essence that his enemies should face a firing squad. The enemy is within. So he opposes and he wants to jail people who oppose him. And I look at all kinds of artists who, under the First Amendment, point all types of things. And so I'm wondering specifically, how do you feel, or do you even feel threatened with your creative expression? And this is, mind you, this is my first time even asking artists how they feel now that we're going into a phase where we're not sure how protection is going to be garnered within this society. If you can comment to that, I'd be most grateful in that respect.
Use the mic, please, Larry.
Oh, sure. I think, I'm just remembering back to earlier times of dissension, like the Vietnam War, stuff like that. I think artists have to be prepared to be warriors. They have to be prepared to be, if they're going to express a truth that's not the official line of those in power, they have to be ready to take the consequences of free speech. They have to freely speak what they think and communicate with those people who can hear. And they have a responsibility to face into that, not to run away from it. And it's scary. And I don't know, in many ways I think it inspires speech. That's what I felt back then. That's what I feel now. Some way of responding. Artists have a way of responding, maybe cloaking some of the vitriol and beauty. And maybe being able to dream in public in a way that an ordinary working stiff can't. But it comes at a cost for some people. And I think you have to be able to face into it. You certainly can't say, hey, I'm privileged. I'm a songwriter. I'm a poet, whatever. That's, yeah. In a way, artists are more visible, so that they're doing things that, that people who are not artists, that are not creating, learn from, mimic, run away from, whatever. But the artist himself, herself, has to be brave, has to be bold.
Hi, I'm Jean. I wanted to go back to what Hurley Jim said. He said, fear-mongering puts us down into the lower parts of our brain, where we don't have easy access to our ability to think clearly. Fear, isolation, and marginalization make it easier to manipulate us. And, most of you know that I'm a teacher, and sorry to bring it down to the classroom, but the classroom is a microcosm of this country. And if you have a teacher who instills fear in the students, all of this stuff that we're talking about happens with those students. So 2 days ago, I met with 2 parents whose really brilliant son is not passing math. When he sits with me, he's almost faster than I am with mental math. And he can't pass tests. The mother went to watch an experiment that the teacher was doing with the class. And they have a classroom economy where the kids get a certain amount of bucks, teacher bucks, and then they have to rent their desks. They get more bucks for doing well, for turning in their homework, for finishing a lab, that kind of stuff. And the mother told me when we were meeting that during this lab, which was really fun, they were curdling milk and making glue out of it and this other stuff. And I've done those labs because I was a science teacher. They're so much fun. Not once did she smile. She just pointed out what everybody was doing wrong, and kids weren't raising their hands and asking questions. She knew they didn't know what to do, but they didn't want to target themselves, right? And finally, the kids were cleaning up, and I guess one group of 4 desks left one piece of equipment outside. They had been hosing it down, and she dunned the whole class. Nobody noticed that, and so you're all 15 points down, or whatever the points were. And her son is literally 2 things: rebellious, angry, and he can't think straight when he's taking a damn test. And it struck me because it's just right after the election that we talked about this, that this classroom is just a model for what's happening in this country. And I'm not sure what to do with it, but I think getting back to kindness, it's the simplest thing we can do. It's not all we need to do. We need to do a huge amount. But kindness, respecting, if that teacher had said, what I told the teacher, and this is what we can all do in our lives, is pointing out what people do right. Celebrating success and celebrating things that go right. I love the way you guys set out your materials on your table. Look how you're working together. That's fantastic. You don't even have to show kids what they're doing wrong. If you point out what they're doing right, that's what they're going to run to. And if we do that in our own lives, and I can think of a few times when I've slipped, I try really hard not to do it, but that's the first step, and there's, of course, so much more.
Can I comment, guys? Hi. I agree totally with everything you guys said, especially what you said, Bob. Everything I hear from people, no matter where they are, except for here, I hear them regurgitating, what they hear from their family, friends, in the news. There's such a collective consciousness, on both sides. I feel like, the human race is in adolescence, where we just got all this power, and of communications and internet and stuff, and we don't know how to use it. And this is one of the things that we're going through. And there's just so few people that think for themselves. And that's why I like it here, because there's a lot of thinkers here. But I feel like we need all of it. You know, we need the people who are fueled by their anger and the political activists, and we need the forgiveness and the compassion, and we need to keep doing, you know, what we're good at, which is having compassion and forgiveness in a wide perspective. So, thank you for having that.
I'm going to take a different angle here. I've been listening to all the news analysis, mostly by white men, white liberal men and white conservative men, and all they're saying is, it was the price of eggs, it was the high cost of gasoline why Trump lost, or Trump won. I think both the liberals and the conservative analysis on TV and have been ignoring the elephant in the room. After Obama had been president, I heard so many white men saying, we're never going to have another black president. And after Hillary was lost, I heard, well, there were a lot of white men who told their wives, we're going to go vote for Hillary. But when they went in to vote, they decided, I'm not going to vote for a woman. In this case, the Democrats may have made a mistake. I loved Camilla, but on the other hand, I knew she wasn't going to get elected because she struck out 3 times. A, she's a woman. B, she was black. And number 3, she had a Jewish husband. So they weren't going to vote for her. I'm just amazed that she got 47% of our vote, because so many people today are still racist and sexist in America, and she wasn't going to win. I think, despite what they're claiming about our economy, if they had run a good-looking, tall, white man like John Kennedy, he would have just wiped Trump off the ballot.
Okay, yes.
Well, I saw an interview, and it was with another journalist, and the question was, do you think that Trump could talk to Netanyahu, and get a ceasefire? And he thought about it for a few minutes, and he said, maybe it's possible. That would be the only light in the tunnel. But I couldn't vote. I'm not a Democrat, and I'm really pissed off at the Democratic Party ever since they sabotaged Bernie's election. And if Bernie would have won, things would have been so different in this country. But, you know, the Democrats are not ready for enough progressiveness that we need. Like John Pilger said, the liberals are the most dangerous. You have to be radical almost to really get it. I don't know. But I wanted Kamala to win. I just didn't vote for her. I wanted to make a state. And I'm in a blue state, but I went with Jill Stein. But we'll see what happens.
Okay, thank you. One more word.
I just forgot to read this 20-second thing, but, you know, yeah,
We'll get to you.
there are people on Zoom too, right?
Don't worry, we won't forget you.
And
Yes.
just want to read this, but I just wanted to point out that Ms. Cortez and Bernie are shrewd enough, or whatever word you want to use, to fully get behind Kamala. You know, different points of view in the party, but we need to understand that. Okay, this is all I wanted to read. How sad it must be believing that scientists, scholars, historians, economists, and journalists have devoted their entire lives to deceiving you while a reality TV star with decades of fraud and exhaustively documented lying is their only beacon of truth and honesty. That's it.
Well, we know who he is. We don't know the others.
Okay, we're going to go on Zoom. Trudy?
Thank you, Larry. I found your message to be deep and well constructed. I was truly amazed at how coherently you covered the election. But most, I appreciated you lifting up the working class and poor and how these people were left out of the Democratic campaign. We've known that the far right has done a remarkable job in reaching those communities. Although the overwhelming majority of Black people voted Democratic and larger numbers in years past, this year we were surprised at the number of Black men and women that voted for Trump. But we understand it's because his campaign addressed their economic fears. Thank you for clearly thinking, Larry. I appreciate your message and your thoughts about where we go from here.
Thanks, Trudy.
Anyone else on Zoom?
I had a different take on all of this.
Okay.
One, people are looking at this as though Trump was reelected, and you could say he was reelected, but he was not. He was. There was an interim. He never went away. There was an interim between his first administration and this coming administration, so he never went away. So what we had was a bright spot in the middle of all this darkness, where we got a lot of infrastructure work done by Biden, where although there's a lot of stuff that we could always say, oh, what's going on in Gaza, what's going on in Lebanon, and I agree 100%. But it was a bright spot in the middle of all this darkness. Trump never went away. He stayed during the whole time. He made up the lie that he had lost the election, so he stayed in power. The Republicans ran to him and they kissed his ring, because if he had left the party, if he had left the Republicans, the party would have fallen apart. So they wanted power, and the Republicans would do anything to stay in power. Mitch McConnell, when he did the little number he did where he denied Merrick Garland being nominated to the Supreme Court, that is part and parcel of their method of doing things. They'll do anything to stay in power. They don't care. They could care less. Republicans don't think that way. Donald Trump doesn't think that way. He doesn't. That's why they follow him, because he is not a politician. Obama proved that anyone in this country could become the president. Donald Trump proved that not anyone should.
Okay, thank you all. Anyone else from Zoom?
Abby has her hand up.
Okay, Abby. Unmute.
I have there's so many things I've been thinking about and feeling, not only the election, but last week or the Raptors, and before that, the Dodgers won. You know, I just have a hard time processing all this, but I think one thing I decided I do want to talk about. My sister died when she was 23 and I was 21. She was gay and was not received well by our family because of that. She had anorexia nervosa, so it was a long and really gruesome kind of death. And after she died, my mother's comment was, "I guess we should have told you that life isn't easy." I said, "Don't you think I know that?" I went to public school as a legally blind student, got thrown out of class every time they did something where you had to recite it. I mean, my friends were also marginal and I got picked on for having them. And we read one of the books in our book group about how that happened to somebody when she was a kid, got picked on. And I think what I came out feeling for that is, if I had been sighted, I would have grown up to be a horrible jerk. I'm so glad that I'm at least not a horrible jerk, hopefully not one at all.
Okay, is that it now, everyone? Is that it from Zoom? Okay, well, we had a lot of comments, and we're going to have many more, and more will spring up as a result of what we have discussed and what we hear around us. It reminds me of when I was when I was at university, at Drew University in New Jersey. And for my master's dissertation, I was writing on the morality of the invasion of Grenada, a huge first world country invading a little speck, Grenada. So my view was that it was an invasion, and it was not morally correct. That's not right. That's not right. But all my advisors and persons who were looking at my dissertation were trying to tell me that it was an intervention, not an invasion. And it took me 2 years to prove that it was an invasion and not an intervention. So I had to struggle with it for over a year extra. And even then, I had to take away certain words and phrases and try to sort of meet them halfway. So we go, and then someone told me it was too soon to write a dissertation on the topic because I was doing it in 1988, and that occurred in 1983. So they told me it was too soon to write about it. So it may be too soon to come to a decision of what happened during the election. Let us calm ourselves, let us relax, let us get some refreshment, let us get some new energy, and both religious and spiritual and ethical and everything. And as we settle down, as we persist, we will continue to get renewal and new ideas and new advice, new, information, new insights. So I think that is it. Larry, would you like to say anything in closing? No?
My only closing comment is actually just responding to you. What your professors were doing was called an evasion.
That's great. That's great. That's great. Okay, thanks very much indeed. Okay, so we have a moment of silence and then a song. Thank you all so much.
We're gonna keep on walking forward. Keep on walking forward. Keep on walking forward. Never turning back. Never turning back. We're gonna keep on loving boldly. gonna reach across our borders, reach across our borders, reach across our borders, never turning back, never turning back. We're gonna keep on walking forward, keep on walking forward, keep on walking forward, never turning back, never turning back, never turning back, never turning back.
Good morning. So, one little thing, and thank you, Larry, for the presentation. I'm doing bread, so I'll say some more stuff later, but I had hoped with all of this chaos that like all of the little text messages I give about donations would have stopped,
I know.
but they didn't.
Oh my God.
And just like that, I'm back today to ask for more. It's like, we could count it again, but it's still the same. But please, your support is important to keep this place going and keep these programs and keep get a little glimmer of hope in what could be construed as kind of dark times. So thank you for whatever you can give. There's a piece of paper in the back that if you want to do it online on the table, at the welcome table, ways to do that as well, or just traditional money. Thank you.
From you I receive, to you I give, together we share, from this we live, from you I receive, to you I give, together we share, from this we live, from you I receive, to you I give, together we share, from this we live. Bring some bread, share the bread, and share something from their heart. And today, it's Craig Hamilton. Welcome, Craig.
So when I signed up to do this, I guess, I don't know, it was blank. I didn't think last week would necessarily go the way it did. You know, it's kind of like when your favorite football team doesn't show up, because it wasn't like it was close. And Larry, I want to thank you for the thoughtfulness and analysis, and which helps process things. And in there, both the outreach and the tendency we have to other people and not doing that in this, that, you know, it's easy to say they were wrong and they're bad people, but to try to understand that. And so I'm going to tell 3 little stories that maybe are interesting or optimistic. I'm an architect, but I went to a college campus recreation conference that of all places was in Las Vegas, the healthiest place in the world, we know, to talk about health and wellness. And I spoke at it on election day, weirdly. But when I got to the hotel, and it was at like one of the like tier 2 big hotels, the Golden Nugget, which is in downtown Las Vegas. It was filled with people that, in my kind of prejudicial way, looked like my white MAGA relatives, if you could say. Actually, I'm not sure I really have any, but I come from Michigan. And yet nobody, they were there for there's a big car show. Nobody was wearing anything political. They were just there to like drink, gamble, smoke, and have fun. All at the same time, which is not really fun for me, but so trying to just see that they're like ordinary people trying to get along. But then I was at a conference with about 175 people, and the interesting thing that happened is in higher education, there's a lot of issues of diversity, equity, inclusion, and things that happen at a state level that aren't happening here in California quite yet, but have happened in Florida and Texas. And I participated in a roundtable conversation about DEI with a lot of young people, a group from different schools in Utah. And what's interesting and hopeful in that is they have legislation where they can't use those words. They can't talk about DEI, even though they're dealing with a diverse body of students, which those of you that are educators, you get who you get, right? And our country is diverse. And so how they were trying to cope with it, what it meant, and in that conversation, California is kind of a beacon of best practice in the light of all of that. So it's, there are little things that we can look at and be hopeful about. And then I came back on Wednesday and Thursday morning. I went to a architect breakfast with State Senator Ben Allen. So there are about 25 of us talking about things, and obviously the election was one of those. And it was things that were of interest to architects, but one thing Ben talked about that I thought was really helpful is architects aren't very influential. We're just not that many of us, but the importance of relationship and alliances and kind of picking your battles about what you can do. And it made me think that I live in the world of the built environment and what you can do, but for all of us that we may be few in the number of people who the church touches, but we can be allies or partners with other people and look to do things and keep all of that moving forward. So it's kind of where I come from. Not this again, but that's the way it is. And then one last thing, and I have a copy of it. Many of you know Kim Payne, a member of the church, who shared an article from Nicholas Kristof that was in the New York Times. I have a copy of it or a link to it that is sort of what you can do. And it's a long list of things, but it ranges from having Thanksgiving dinner with your relatives you don't really want to, and trying to reach out to self-care, to other things. And it's kind of a useful list, even though it's long. So thank you for listening.
So, okay, I believe it's time for our closing circle. So come and stand in a circle, yes? Reach out and touch somebody's hand. Make this world a better place if you can. Reach out and touch somebody's hand. Make this world a better place if you can. Last time, reach out and touch somebody's hand. Make this world a better place if you can. Thank you, Joseph.
Okay. Okay.
One last
we have a song,
yes,
closing
I do.
song.
We are a gentle, angry people, and we are singing for our lives. We are a gentle, angry people, and we are singing singing for our lives. We're a land of many colors. We are a land of many colors, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are a land of many colors, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are old and young together, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are old and young together, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are an angry, gentle people, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are angry, gentle people, and we are singing, singing for our lives.
Okay, we thank you all for this very refreshing time of worship. I'd just like to end with since I'm from the biblical tradition, David was facing the revolt from his son, Absalom. Absalom had a big army, and the army of Absalom was advancing towards defeating his father's army, David. And David was on his way to the battleground. And on the way, a shepherd, Barzillai, stopped him and said, "Come, have some refreshment. Have some refreshment." And he spread a big table with food and refreshment and so on for David to bring his mind and his body together before the battle with his son Absalom. And there, David reflects and says, "Oh, but this must be like what God does for us." And he said, "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He restores my soul. He leadeth me into paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. And then surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life." Thanks be to God. So we join hands and we turn off on Zoom. We're ready? After 3, we say together, carry on.
Carry on. Thank you, everybody.